Today on Locked On Canadiens, Imam joins us to do our season review on Kaiden Guhle, and we are going to make a bunch of irresponsible predictions about the 25-26 Montreal Canadiens.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1355 of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports us here on the show and ensures you do not miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as @MaybeIt'sIan. I'm not joined once again by Laura Saba, also known as the Actor Stick, but instead I am joined by another friend of the show, a part of the Locked On Canadiens cinematic universe of Game Over Montreal, the Game Over Network. Imam, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm so happy to be here. I know we've been trying to set this up for at least a month at this point. So I'm glad we can do this. Listen, I am ready to go. I am always down to talk Kaiden Guhle and down to be irresponsible. So hell yeah.
We could not. We're going to be responsible with our predictions. We had to be very responsible and make sure that the president of Guhle Nation was present for this player review. It would have felt wrong to not include Kay in this. So that we'll start there. We'll start with our Kaiden Guhle season review. We'll go into what Hughes and Gorton have left to do this summer, what they may or may not get done, and talk maybe a little bit about Kay's thoughts on how the summer has gone so far. And then, yes, we'll start to make some very silly predictions about the Canadiens that have not even really been decided yet. We don't even know that the roster's fully cooked. It's getting pretty close, but we're not there yet. But we'll start with Kaiden Guhle. So, Kay, what we like to do with our season player reviews is sort of provide one word that speaks to you when you think of the season that the player had. Sort of just a word association. When it comes to Kaiden Guhle's season, do you have one?
It feels like a bit of a cop-out, but I'm going to say missing piece.
I don't think that's a cop-out at all. Explain more.
I think you really, when I think about the, I know we're talking this season, but just kind of think about the overall trajectory of the team. I think that he's very important in his role. And I think he's the kind of guy that you don't necessarily notice is how much he does until he's gone kind of thing. Yeah. I know that the time that he was out and injured, the Habs were kind of technically on their upswing then, but I don't think some of it was luck. I think you really see the missing. It was always Lane Hudson, Mike Matheson, and then Guy. And Carrier being there obviously helped a lot. But I think he's the one piece that I guess this is both looking into the future and this past season is I think he's the guy that everybody except me and everybody else people who aren't necessarily all that into the Habs, I think just don't see how important that piece is until it's missing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think mine's sort of a similar vein. My word is known. I think Kaiden Guhle at this point in his career, at least among Montreal media and fans, he's a known quantity. We know what we're getting out of Kaiden Guhle, right? We keep thinking, well, maybe there's going to be more to his offensive upside that develops. I think he's pretty capped there. I don't know that there's much else to add offensively, and it honestly doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all because what he brings is this sort of smash mouth brand of hockey that is difficult to find in a defenseman. I keep thinking about how many times this season, especially down the stretch when they really needed sparks, where he just laid somebody out and the Canadiens were able to get energy off of that. I think he's a known quantity. I really, to your point, I don't know that the rest of the league has truly caught on to how good this defenseman really is. And I think as the Canadiens sort of take their steps forward and make their natural steps of progression, and hey, maybe he's playing with the new shiny new toy in Noah Dobson next year, that would elevate his profile to a point where he would start to get more national media attention, or I
Mhm.
suppose international media attention when it comes to
Yeah,
both
yeah.
Canada and the US. Like, do you think that do you think he's a good fit with Dobson for next year? I think that's sort of where a lot of people go. A lot of people are it's either between Hudson and Guhle for Dobson. Do you like the
Mhm.
idea of Guhle-Dobson as potentially the number one pairing?
I number 2, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think that's splitting hairs. I honestly think it's splitting hairs because Lane Hudson, Noah Dobson, I don't want them together unless, like, um, it's full send for offense time. The reports of Lane Hudson's defensive issues are a lot very over exaggerated in my
Mhm.
opinion. But it is there. And like we're not, I don't think we're silly enough to completely deny that. Noah Dobson, from my understanding of the honest Islanders fans that I've talked to who like can actually, give an honest assessment rather than he sucks all the time. Um, I think it makes sense for him and Caden Gooley to play together. And man, I think Caden Gooley, poor guy, deserves to play on his side, on his natural side, and I just
Yeah.
think that that works really well. The Dobson and Gooley, again, Hudson and Dobson, I think is a special case pairing, but
Mhm.
on a regular basis, I think it's Hudson and God knows. Hudson and
Yeah.
someone,
Maybe
I think
Matheson,
that's the
honestly. Like,
Matheson, I think is the answer there. However long he's there, which I have a hot take about that.
ooh.
Um, and, yeah, Dobson and Goulet.
Yeah, I really liked Guhle Hudson in the playoffs. I thought that, Hudson makes everybody look so silly with the whole, well, he's left-handed, he can't play on the right side. It has
Mhm.
not stopped Lane Hudson for a single shift. Like, it has not
Yeah,
bothered him to be on the right side. He's even said he feels more comfortable on the right than he does on the
yeah.
left. I don't know how true that is, but I guess maybe it opens him up to play more offensively. Um, but like I'm looking at the lines from last year, and Caden Goulet's top defensive partner was
Mhm,
Alex Carrier, which is odd because Carrier joined midseason, but also because Caden Guhle got injured again.
mhm,
When we talk about we have this player will always be linked to the injuries he has unfairly or
mhm,
fairly.
mhm.
I find let me get your take on this first. So there's a lot of people who think that he is injury prone.
Yeah.
After a season like this, do you believe that to be the case?
I don't think so. I consider a player injury prone when there have been similar injuries several seasons in a row. And I think the biggest injury everybody thinks of, because an appendix isn't an injury, guys, let's just get that out of the way. I saw an insane take about that, but whatever. That was, like, from, like, a raw meat guy who was like anyways, we don't need to get into that. But, like, the cut is, like, for some reason, it's just been happening a little bit more in the NHL, I feel, but that's, like, a separate conversation, but it's freak injury. I don't think that counts as injury prone. Um, I don't think with Carrier, like we saw how the season ended, but I can see like why that pairing works. I think that like I think Caden Gooley works on that pairing and on the Hudson pairing because like, and I told you I'd say this, but I'm gonna say it. He's got that dog in him, and I think, like, when you need kind of this is I'm kinda going off the other end here, but I'm not sure if you remember, but the last game of the season where they needed to win that game,
Yeah.
pre-game, he was essentially like, "We gotta get her done." And then he scored 2 goals, right? And I think
Yeah.
that kind of and then first, obviously, playoff game, all of the I think defensemen got caught off guard a little bit, most of the players, I think, by the physicality, and then you saw him bounce right back, right? And I think that's something that makes him just a valuable asset on whatever pairing he's on, because I just don't think that he doesn't play like someone who's quote unquote injury prone. And I think that's the most important thing about a guy who maybe is out with injury more than you'd like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and I think his sort of like the cut from this year. It was such a freak injury. Like,
Mhm.
of all of the injuries that happened this year, I don't think any were weirder than he fell on his leg funny and his own skate cut him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's so
It wasn't
that
even
is
anybody else.
no, and it was scary. Like, we were worried for
Yeah.
him in the long term, and then Kaiden Guhle is Kaiden Guhle. He got stitched back up, and he was back out there before the season ended.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the final game against Carolina. He called his shot. He said, "We need to get it
Mhm.
done. We need to get her done," as he said, and he was phenomenal in that game.
Mhm.
And I'm very excited for the future of this player when the Canadians are playing in far more meaningful games, because I
Yeah.
find that he elevates whenever called upon to do so. All right, we'll leave Kaiden Guhle there. We need to step aside. When we come back, we're going to hit the to-do list, figure out what Hughes and Gorton have left to do this summer, whether or not they'll accomplish that, and we'll get into all of that in just a second on Locked On Canadiens. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting Major League Baseball game. As we are now back from the All-Star break, they're all very exciting. They're all of them have playoff implications, so you're going to want to get to one. You can see your seat views right from your seat before you buy, right from your app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we are back with Imam of the Game Over Network, Game Over Montreal, more specifically, and we are in the middle of the summer. We're like right in the middle of the off season. We're not quite into August territory where Kent Hughes is out there doing wild things like
Mhm.
trading for Mike Matheson was an August trade, I believe. Patrick Laine was another very late summer trade.
Mhm.
Do you think he has one of those in him? I know a lot of people keep thinking that he might, and maybe I'm just kind of goading him into doing it because I don't know that he has another move in him this summer. What do you think he's got one left?
I think that's it's we've already got such a big move in Dobson, right?
Yeah.
It feels like he'd have to get very creative, but that is kind of Ken Hughes's calling card, right? Like, it seems like even when he doesn't need to be creative, I'm referring to that trade, the Calgary one that was like 15,000 stipulations on the draft
And then
pick,
they
right?
didn't
Like,
even make the pick. They traded the pick.
and it was incredible.
They
And it was
twirled in
just
the air for 3 years and then they didn't stick the landing. It was very funny. I
and
mean, they got a great
we
player, but
all
cosmically funny
truly
that they didn't make that pick.
it was like incredible, and like I think Hughes just likes doing that kind of creative thinking, creative thing. Um, I know that we're all prone to either like absolutely trashing our GMs or hyping them up. I don't think a lot
Yeah.
of fans are very good at being somewhere in the middle. So I'm just gonna hype up our GM because I think
Yeah, there you go.
he's at least in that phase of his life cycle as a GM. Um, that sounded very pessimistic, but you know what I mean. Like every GM has a
Yeah,
curve.
shelf
Um,
life. All of them.
exactly. Some of them even don't peak, so we're not. He's doing good. Anyways, my point being that I think if anybody can do it, I would trust G Gorton? No, Hughes and Gorton to do it.
Both of them.
Yeah, they're a team. Because it feels like we got our excitement out of the way with Dobson, and I can't help but think that he's gonna be too bored not to do anything.
Yeah, I think there are holes in this roster. I think by
Yeah,
and large the
100%.
roster is better today than it was when they finished the season. It is.
Mhm.
It's you
I
you,
agree.
you don't add a player of Dobson's caliber without getting better. You don't add a player of Zachary Bolduc's caliber without your roster getting better. With that said, there's still holes, right? Like Joe Veleno coming in down the middle. I know a lot of people go, left shot center, he'll play in the lower six. That's the Dvorak replacement. And I
Mhm,
listeners of this show, everydayers, will know that I'm not sold on that as a
mhm,
replacement. I think we were all up until the playoffs, we were all very low on what Christian Dvorak actually did.
mhm,
And now that he's gone, I think he's a player, like you mentioned it in our Kaiden Guhle review. Like once that player's gone, you start to
mhm,
understand what they did. The
mhm.
absence is greater than what you view through their presence.
Yeah.
With Dvorak, I think that that's going to be a thing. They did not replace Yoel Armia on the penalty kill.
Yes.
So those
Oh,
are two guys that like played. I know that's your guy. They those are two roles that they haven't really fixed. Like, do you think they're comfortable going into the? I mean, Kent Hughes has said he's comfortable going into the season with the roster they have. For what reason would he lie to? Would he tell us the truth there? Like, I do you buy that? Do you buy that they're comfortable with where they are?
no, I don't. I think he's comfortable in the way that he's like, I wouldn't, be terrified going to the season. And I agree with him. I wouldn't be terrified going to the season, but I do think he um comfortable isn't happy. Maybe he's
Yeah,
comfortable but not happy. I think with Christian Dvorak, he really will be the kind of guy who I think we're all gonna see is, including myself, we're gonna see and admit like that we were very harsh on him, and sometimes he deserved it, and other times it
sure.
was just he was just snake bitten. Um, but I think my biggest kind of concern is the penalty kill. We
Yeah.
have Yoel Armia, who is such a big part of that penalty kill, gone. Um, and I think David Savard, he didn't move very well, but man, could he block a shot.
Didn't
Uh,
need to on the penalty kill. Just park him in front of the net. He did
exactly,
his best Hal
exactly,
Gill impression, just laying on the ice and
exactly.
blocking pucks.
And it worked for him. So I think that's just kind of, I know that there's some prospects we have who can maybe slot into that middle six, centers, but it's really hard for me to trust a penalty kill that's Jake Evans, Josh Anderson, and shrug emoji. Like,
Yeah, it's true. Like, yeah, you've got the first one down. It's probably Jake Evans, and I would imagine Josh Anderson gets that move up to
just
the first.
hilarious.
It's so funny that they've created that role for this player, and that he's not only accepted it but like thrived in it. I've really
Mhm.
enjoyed Josh Anderson, the penalty
Yes.
killer. But like then you look at that second pairing and you start to think, well, is Joe Veleno going to win faceoffs enough for you to trust him on the penalty kill, even though he's never played the penalty kill in his career? I
Mhm.
don't trust that as an option. Do you say, okay, Alex Newhook is our center on that second penalty kill? I don't think so. Like, I don't think that he one wins faceoffs enough for that to matter, and two, I don't think we've seen enough of him on the penalty kill.
Mhm.
I'd like to think that his speed would be really effective on the penalty kill, and Montreal would be wise to try to take advantage of that whenever they could. But yeah, I completely agree. Like the penalty kill, and it was something we called out throughout the end of the season, right? And it's
Mhm.
why we were big on keeping
So
Jake Evans, because it's like, what? Who
he's
else do you have? You're gonna hand this over to Owen Beck next year as a rookie? Like that
yeah.
can't be. That is not a progression. So I
Mhm.
am very worried. I'm like you. I'm very worried about the penalty kill. Do you think there's still stuff out there that'll be able to help them? Whether I don't know that there's many free agents left that are super awesome. I know like Luke Cunnin was a name that popped up for penalty kill, which I mean, if you're looking at guys like Luke Cunnin in the middle of July, as a fan, I think you're a little bit of a sicko because that's what I did, and I would
Yeah.
be a sicko. Like, do you think that the Canadians do you think they make changes to the penalty kill before the season starts, or do you think they go in as is?
I I personally wouldn't go in as is,
Yeah.
but I also think the reality of the situation is there's only what's out there is out there. The good thing is, we're not talking about getting a 2C right now, although everybody knows they need that, but we're not talking about the 2C position right now. It's a position that I think maybe a bottom six forward can fill out. And there's always more chance of that. The Habs have like tons of assets. They've got some prospects who are maybe at the point where, how everybody says, like, either do the thing or get off the pot. Like,
Right.
I think there's some assets who need to get off the pot. or some prospects. So I there's plenty there. I just
Yeah.
can't use making the move for the sake of making the move.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get in trouble, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there wasn't a lot. There was one team selling in this offseason, and it was the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Mhm.
Um, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a situation like we saw last year where the Canadians make a call a few months into the season on some of their players, like we
Mhm.
saw with JB, Justin Barron, right? We saw this with him last year. They decided we can't do this anymore. It's not working with this player here. And they swung honestly one of the most effective trades of the season in getting
So
Alex Carrier.
underrated.
It's
So
incredibly
underrated.
underrated. He was so good for Montreal, and I'm very excited he's still a Canadian and at a really nice cap hit. But like I think that's what's going to happen is we're going to see teams who thought they were ready to take that step and they're not. And
Mhm.
you one hope the Canadians aren't one of those teams, but two, you have to position yourself to be able to take advantage of that, which I think the Canadians have done well. They have assets to be able to send out. They'll be able to make a trade for one of those things should one of their internal options not fully pan out.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. We will leave that there then. I'm sure we'll continue touching on this throughout the summer until Kent Hughes starts to actually get some of these guys. Otherwise, we are anticipating a penalty kill with Owen Beck and Florian Jacki on it, which is kind of concerning. But we'll leave
Which
that
is
there.
fun, but
Yeah, very fun. That is an empty calories penalty kill. Like we'd be like, yeah, this is great, and they get they get
immediately
clogged.
scored on.
Yeah, exactly. They just get absolutely stuffed. We'll leave that there. When we come back, we're going to make some way too early predictions about the 25-26 Canadiens, and you won't want to miss it here on Locked On Canadiens. All right, we are back. Okay, Imam here with Game Over Network, joining us in Laura's stead. I always joke if you're on the YouTube, Laura is my right shot defenseman because I cannot handle that responsibility. So you are our Alex Carrier in this sense that you have stepped in and you've made a difference immediately. So thank you for joining me today. I'm sure.
I'm
I'm
so
sure.
excited. I miss
Yeah,
talking hockey.
yeah. I mean, and Game Over is a wonderful place to be after games. I often wish that you were doing more of this, right? And it's a
Mhm.
selfish want that you guys. I want to hear more from you guys, but maybe the wanting is part of the secret formula here that we want to
The
keep coming
longing is
back
the
after.
love.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, look, the Canadians have made a lot of moves. We don't know that their roster is done, but let's make
Mhm.
some predictions based on what is in front of us. So they're going into the season without a really defined number two center. They're
Mhm.
going into the season without replacing Christian Dvorak, and they're going into the season with essentially the same defense core outside of David Savard. And they've added
Mhm.
Noah Dobson, but the rest of that remains mostly intact.
Mhm.
I'll ask the big question first. Is this a playoff team in 2026?
Yes, I think they are.
Yeah.
I
I
hesitate just because I do think that bottom 6, center position is, uh, asking for a little something, but I
yeah.
don't think that's shockingly enough, I think that than the 2C is more likely to, hold them back. That's very bold. That's a bold prediction. I don't
No,
know if I
I
stand by it, but I said it out loud.
I don't disagree with that just because of how much the Canadians needed to rely on that bottom six last
Yeah,
year. And
yeah.
one begets the other, right? It's because they didn't have a second line that they could trust on any given night to the point where like the Gallagher, Anderson, Dvorak line was being rolled out as the second
Mhm.
line on most nights. Um, I agree with you. I think this is a playoff team next year. I think a lot of folks who think that the Canadians might regress might be right in that maybe
Mhm.
some parts of their game do not look as polished as maybe we'd hoped they would. However, like I keep looking around the division, waiting for other people
Yeah.
to get better. Like
Mhm.
I'm waiting for Detroit to finally get better. I don't know that they did.
So
I'm
are their
waiting.
fans.
Yes, I don't know if I know Buffalo did not get better. They are a worse team now than they finished the season with, and they already finished the season very poorly.
Yeah.
Boston has completely imploded. I don't think
Mhm.
we're gonna have to worry about them this year. The Rangers have not gotten better. That was one of the
No.
teams Montreal was fighting with towards the end of the year. The
Mhm.
Islanders have not gotten better.
Mhm.
Columbus has kind of stayed the same. Like I think if you're looking at teams that have made a step or have at least maintained what they were doing, it's Montreal and Columbus.
Mhm.
I really think that aspect of this is not being played in enough. And I think that if the Canadiens are in a really good position going into the trade deadline and they don't have that second line center, I think Hughes would go out and fix that problem, regardless of what the cost was, assuming it's not astronomically stupid. But
Mhm.
like, I think he fixed that solution. Let me ask you this:
Mhm.
who is the Canadiens' leading scorer next season?
Oh, oh, Ian, you're getting me to say something that I might look back at and feel silly about. Uh,
We said we were going to be irresponsible. Let it rip.
uh, Ivan Demidov. Dare I say it?
I'm so glad you said that because there's part of my brain that's like, do it. Say Demidov, do it. And I'm like, no, it's gonna be Suzuki. Like,
It's gonna be Suzuki,
I don't
but
need to get out of my head. Like, but the little lizard in my brain is telling me
it's
you
like
should say
whispering.
Ivan Demidov because how cool would it be if he just
That'd be
immediately
sick.
steps into the league and leads his team in scoring?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be Nick Suzuki, but hey, I've got that on film if it does by some actually, I think Nick would have to be very injured for the other thing to happen, so never mind. Nick
I think
Suzuki.
that's true too. I think if we're talking about anybody other than Nick Suzuki leading the Canadiens in scoring, something drastic happened. Like we're talking about not being a playoff team like we were in
Yes, we're
that
talking
first
season,
section.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's just part and parcel with this hockey
yeah.
team is Nick for right now. That's going look, that kingdom is going to belong to Ivan Demidov very soon. If not
Mhm.
this season,
The Boy King's
probably the one
rise.
after.
Yeah,
Like, but
yeah.
it's I actually I want to ask you about him too because I think I saw a post on the Habs subreddit about are we overhyping this team, and it got me
Mhm.
thinking. Like, I think we might be, but I also think it's okay. I think
Yes.
we lived in the shadows long enough for us to be able to be excited about this, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you feel that? Do you feel that Canadians fans get an unfair amount of "you're not allowed to enjoy your team" like feelings from the rest of the league? I feel it's us in Toronto. Like we're the only teams in the league who aren't allowed to like our thing.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think we do. Listen, I get if I was not a Habs fan, they're a team that I could hate very easily because they are worth being jealous about, and I'm gonna stick by that. I think a lot of people are a lot more they admire the Habs a lot more than they think that the Habs were a lot cooler if they were their team. That's just I'm just talking because I genuinely like, I'm a big, like I love to think about history and all those things, but I think just, like, conceptually, it's really cool being a Habs fan. You
Yeah,
know, the original one, like, we have all of that, and I'm not gonna back down from saying it. I just think it's really cool, and I think I am better than I'm not, but I'm gonna say it. But yeah, I think we get, like, some flack when we don't, like, need it. Man, why not? Why not? Why not be excited?
yeah,
Um, I know if things go badly, it's gonna be bad, but
yeah,
why hope let's just hope for the best. We're
yeah.
manifesting.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are moments where we need to chill out. I remember when they sent Kotkaniemi over to Europe for a little bit, and he was like, or it was before that season started. Maybe I don't remember. It was before his season started. He was like playing with Pori in Finland, and he was like winning faceoffs, and people were like, "Oh my god, he's winning faceoffs over in Finland." I think it was during the pandemic, so maybe we get a pass for being
Yeah.
excited that a guy was winning faceoffs, but also no, we don't. Like I'll check us there as well. I want to make one very bold prediction, and I think it's Lane Hudson finishes top 5 in Norris voting. I think that he already got some votes this year, which was crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I think he's in the conversation next year. Especially considering he's going to be getting the puck to Ivan Demidov and Nick
Oh,
Suzuki, and
oof.
a returned Kirby Doc. Maybe Kirby Doc takes that step back that we hope he does. Do you have any last minute bold predictions for this upcoming season?
Bold predictions. I think that our top pairing, whatever it is going to be statistically one of the better ones in the league. That's a bold one, and because I don't know who else other than Lane Hudson is gonna be there, but I feel
Yeah,
like
I was going to say it's so bold you don't even know
whoever
who's
is
on the
there
pair yet.
exactly, whoever is there, I think it's gonna be a very good one.
Yeah. I agree with you there. All right, we have to do our trivia here. We have to do our trivia and clean up some housekeeping before we take off. The last episode was about two goalies of the past, Carey Price and Yaroslav Halak. So the question was, Yaroslav Halak recorded his first NHL win on February 18th, 2007 in Columbus. He did, however, give up a goal to the 6th overall pick in the 2005 NHL draft, who was picked immediately following Carey Price at 5th overall. Before Columbus picked this player, GM Doug McLean excitedly said they're taking the goalie as this player slid to them at 6. Do you know who this player is, Kay? I think this predates your hockey knowledge, but does this
It
player
does.
ring a bell?
I feel like it should. I know of this because I remember I've heard of the whole they're taking the goalie thing. Like I do
Yeah,
remember that. I don't remember who though.
it is Gilbert Brulé. They took him at 6th overall.
Cool.
Passing on, I think like Kopitar went after that. Like it was not that 2005 draft is incredible, and to miss on a player at that point, like
Mhm.
it didn't doom Columbus, but it certainly made it harder for them to become anything other than the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Mhm.
That was given to us correctly by Manny, George N, Mark Couturier, Paul Giardetti, Jeff Harple, Good Sport, Jason Lib, and 43 House fan, who I believe is our pal Ben from
Mhm.
the interwebs. So thank
Yeah.
you all for playing and answering that one. All right, today's question, in honor of Kaiden Guhle. The number 21 is not a standard number for defensemen in Montreal. Of the 38 players to wear the number 21 for the Habs, only 11 of them were defensemen. And since the year 2000, only 3 defensemen have worn the number 21 for the Montreal Canadiens. You know one of them, it's Kaiden Guhle. Can you name the other 2? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below this video. Send it to us any way you know how, and we will shout you out on the next episode of the show. Kay, tell all the people where they can find you and the work that you do.
You can find me on Twitter at K_IMW. On Blue Sky, I am also on Blue Sky. I totally forgot what it is now.
I believe your
I'll
line composition
Yeah,
on Blue
I
Sky.
yes, line composition, correct. And I am very online. I have been taking a bit of a break from hockey this off season, but we are so back. So follow me on there to watch me be unhinged.
Fantastic. Please come back again soon. It's always super fun to have you
Sure.
on here, especially with Laura. We need to have you both back here. All right. That's going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks so much for tuning in and for making us your first listen of the day every day. We are free and available everywhere you get your podcast. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most, local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find our show, Locked On Canadiens, everywhere we are posting things at Locked On Canadiens on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe on YouTube. We're running a subscriber contest. Once we get to 4,500 subscribers, I'm giving away a signed photo of Josh Anderson looking very handsome in the Stanley Cup final. So make sure you are signed up for that by putting contest entry down below this video and by subscribing on YouTube. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura whenever she's back at The Active Stick. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys later this week.